This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 490.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. Well, hello everybody, this is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. A couple things to talk about. There are no WordCamps next weekend, but in the next week and a half, there are a few things you might want to know about. Starting with this Wednesday, the 19th, I'm having my second virtual co-working via Zoom. That's another session I'm doing. If you're on my adamsilver.com email list, you would have known that. But if you're not, it's okay. You can send me a message, a DM, an email for the link to that if you want to do a 1 hour session to kind of have a focused virtual session for co-working. It's pretty productive. It's pretty cool. I had a handful of people show up last time. I'm going to start doing these once or twice a month. So the next one is the 19th of July at 10, it's at 10 a.m.? I believe it's at 10 a.m. Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go. All right. Also coming up, WordPress 6.3 is going to have a live product demo Thursday, July 20th at 1600 UTC. It's via Zoom. There's a link in the show notes for that. And lastly, my good friend Dustin is hosting a webinar entitled Converting a PHP Theme Site to a Full Site Editing Theme. That's going to be Wednesday, July 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern. There's a link in the show notes for that as well. So you should join in on some of those things because they're all awesome. So check that out. Okay, moving on, segment 1 in the news. Two things to talk about here. First and foremost, WordPress 6.3 Beta 4 has dropped. This has about 40 things that have been updates in editor, 60 things from track. Since the beta 3 release. And the most notable thing that I saw there in the notes were that they discontinued support for PHP 5. So if you still have a site that you manage or own or work on with PHP 5, you're going to want to fix that. You want to upgrade that. So do that, of course, cautiously, have a backup, test some things out, but you're going to want to make sure you don't have PHP 5 moving forward if you're going to go to 6.3. Also in the news, All-in-One Security, otherwise known as AIOS, it has over 1 million sites that it uses it, but it had a login plain text password issue that they finally patched. So version 5.2.0 has patched that security vulnerability. So if you're running AIOS, you're going to want to definitely run that update as soon as possible. That's it. Yeah, that's it for the news. And moving on to segment 2, the meat and potatoes of this week's episode, setting business precedents. So this week's topic idea was generated in my head a week or so back as I was chatting with a good friend of mine who is the farthest thing from a business owner. But what they said really irked me. It got me thinking about running a business and setting precedents as it relates to running a business. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this topic can cover and does cover a bunch of different areas, especially in my world or our world, running a web agency or doing web services. And because recently the Supreme Court here in the US actually ruled on a case, which is crazy to say the least. Talk about that a little bit more at the end. So moving forward, a couple things. First of all, the friend that had an issue was the fact that she visited a hair salon 3, 4, 5 times over the past 6, 7 months, and the prices are always different. Got me thinking about it. And the prices were different for the same service, which I thought was odd. And how does that happen anyway? And also keep in mind here that moving forward, I have 4 things I want to share with you. And they have to deal with some legalities. But if you're going to do some legal documentation, make sure that you know I'm not a lawyer. I'm just giving some ideas. Not professional advice. Seek out professional legal assistance if you need it. Okay, so starting with the internal aspects of employees and contractors, employment contracts. Now, having a contract is important. When we've all had day jobs in the past, if you, so to speak, that's what we call it, a jobby job, we all signed what was called an employment contract. And having that's crucial. These contracts should outline, they do outline the essential terms and conditions of the employment. Job responsibilities, compensation, benefits, being confidential with content, termination provisions. Having a clear and comprehensive employment contract, both the employer and the employee have a solid foundation working together, which can help prevent misunderstandings and disputes. In the same realm of that, you also want to have an employee handbook. Now, developing a handbook can take some time, but it's essential to communicate the company policies, procedures, expectations to everyone across the board. It covers the areas as attendance, time off, code of conduct, anti-discrimination, harassment policies, etc. And what happens if you break those rules. Okay, so consistently applying these policies creates a fair and uniform work environment. It really does. And it helps ensure compliance and legal requirements. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just going to tell you how I see it and what I've kind of been working on myself. Now, moving over to the financial areas takes us to pricing. Now, this is not necessarily a legal issue here, but the pricing structure. Now, I feel strongly that we need to have clear, established, transparent pricing for my services. The structure needs to work for me, the outline for various factors on determining pricing, such as the scope of work, complexity, time required, materials, additional costs. And a lot of people do this with a spreadsheet or a price book or a price list, right? But you want to put this down on paper that the entire team who's ever doing sales for you is aware of this. It also makes a difference when it comes to offering a discount. Do you offer discounts automatically? If you do, you shouldn't, in my opinion only, but keep that in mind. A lot of people just automatically offer 5% off. I don't do that anymore. I used to, I'm guilty of it, but I no longer offer a discount unless someone asks for it and they have a good reason. For example, if they're a nonprofit and they can prove it, then I do offer a discount. Okay. Another item would be to set the pricing policy, not just the structure, but the policy. This would be more of an internal use, in my opinion, to start, whereas I've developed the pricing policy that outlines how prices are determined, and then we communicate them to the clients. So all that pricing stuff before the structure, that is shared internally, as is the policy, and then based on who's doing sales, we can address it, such as price adjustments, discounts, like I just said, payment terms, and or any conditions that might be limiting on pricing, deposits, milestones, etc. Again, it helps build trust with clients and minimizes the risk or disputes of any future misunderstanding. And I get it. That sounds like a lot of legal jargon, and it is in one aspect. It's not completely legalese, but from the information I've been pulling together, it is a lot of words and it can sound confusing, but you have to be clear, so have a lawyer review it. Okay. And the last thing I'll mention here are the types of work that I will not take, period. Pretty basic, in my opinion here. I won't be taking any projects that promote hate, violence, discriminate against any group. Simple as that. Now, once again, not a lawyer, and I'm using the term precedent as it relates to how I approach the day-to-day running of my company, as to make the decisions easier and consistent, not as a legal argument. Okay. And not to get too in the weeds here, but yeah, there was that case that was just ruled, I think in the last month. It was last month, yeah, in favor of a web designer. I'm using air quotes right now, web designer in Colorado, where she filed a pre-case that she didn't want to build sites. I say pre-case. So she never had a client, technically. She was afraid she might get a client that would be same-sex, a same-sex couple, for a website, for a wedding website. Per her religious beliefs, she doesn't believe in that. So she filed a case, a lawsuit that went all the way to the Supreme Court. The crazy thing here is that she made up the couple, like literally made the couple up. One person was completely fake, fictitious. The second person turned out to be a straight male and married with children and had no idea his name was even used. It's a crazy world here in the US, in case you're not local. But if you want to read more about that, I'll put a link in the show notes, and it is kind of crazy. So I don't care about people's married life. It's not my problem, period. But if you're a hater, if you're going to hate, you're going to cause harm, promote hate, violence, discrimination, yeah, we're not going to take that kind of work. So I can say that. All right. So there you go. Some things to think about: employee handbook, pricing structure, pricing policy, and of course the employment contract. Things to consider about setting a precedent for yourself and a policy. So precedent, policy, kind of interchangeable words there. And I think that will work for you moving forward. If you have any that you want to add or share with me, by all means, let me know. Shoot me an email. Okay. Moving forward, segment 3, tip and tool of the week. I want to mention this really cool tool. It's called PhraseFix, PHRASE, fix, FIX.com. A ton of cool features. It helped me recently parse a customer list that had duplicate emails. The emails, there's 2 of each email in quotes and then another one in brackets. I get to remove those, then remove the duplicates, and then make a list. Really cool. A lot of things you can do with this web-based interface, and it's completely free. It's over at PhraseFix.com. Check it out. A lot more you can do with it. That's just what I used it for recently. Really neat. All right, let me wrap it up here. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or use the SpeakPipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, you can become a Patreon. Would love that. You can also do that at KitchensinkWP.com/Patreon. If you want to sponsor the show, there's a form on the website. Go ahead and apply there. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right, bye-bye.